Welcome. I'm Tim Scoggins, Chair of the Shaftsbury Select Board. I am calling this meeting to order at 6:33 on Monday, January 18th, 2021. Let's first up, I want to mention a couple of things, just minor items on the agenda. Under other business, there are a couple items to take up: a fire department purchase, and Dave has a report about our E911 project.
Give us an update on that. And Tim, are we recording?
No, I think you would have to do that.
Oh, okay. I forget I'm the host now. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to get my picture to come in, but anyway.
Well, we hear you fine.
Okay.
Okay, we are recording. We're on Cat TV. Joe's here. What else we need? You want to make me a co-host in case I need to share my screen later? We won't have to bog down with that. Okay, we call to order. We adjusted the schedule. Let me ask the board, does anyone have a conflict of interest with anything appearing on the agenda this evening?
No.
No.
All right, I hear none there. We have minutes to approve that were circulated, and I believe they are for Select Board 12/21, Special Select Board on 1/14, Water Board on January 7th. I would entertain a motion to approve all three of those.
So move.
Moved by Ken.
Second?
Second by Art. Any discussion, additions, or corrections on any of those minutes? All in favor of approving those minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, those minutes are approved. 500. Next up is warrants. On top, I have payroll warrant number 14. The total amount is $24,216.53.
So moved.
Motion to approve from Tony.
Second.
Second by Art. Any discussion on the payroll? All in favor of approving the payroll, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, payroll warrant number 14, $24,216.53 is approved, 500. And this is check warrant 24. Here we are. Total amount of check warrant 24 is $53,445.84.
So moved.
Motion to approve from Tony.
Second.
Second by Art. Major items on this one include dozens of little charges to Allied Auto Parts. All of those are less than 200. We've got Appalachia Salt for 2,000. Bennington County Sheriff for 2,700. Bennington Tire for 1,100, 1,200. Bennington Tire for 450. GA Bow Fuels for 800 and 900. Green Mountain Power for various charges, including one of 440. The others are less than 100 or 200 each. New England Municipal Resource, NEMRIC. We've got a couple of charges, including one for 1,000. $1,000 for delinquent tax collector fees, $2,900, it just says town administrator. Dave, do you know why we paid you $2,900?
Dave is mute.
Yeah, it looks like he's looking it up. I'm gonna go on. Looks like town clerk's salary, 1,700. Highway crew wages, 11,000. Highway crew insurance, let's see, overtime was 2,100, wages was 1,100.
Tim,
Yeah,
you skipped back to the payroll warrant.
oh gosh, okay. Sorry about that.
I was wondering where all those, I'm looking at the warrant, I'm like, where is
Yeah.
this?
Yep, I sure did. All right, I apologize, people. That was certainly confusing. I was wondering why we were getting wages on the
Yeah.
warrant myself. Okay, yeah, I tried to
No,
save,
we're nice guys.
trying to save trees by printing on both sides, and I got confused. Okay, so I tell you what, I have totally botched this, including the total. So that motion was made and seconded. Can we all just vote against that and I'll start over? All in favor of that check warrant, say aye. Nobody says aye. All opposed, no. Everybody says no.
No,
No,
Okay, so whatever I just made up, we're not agreeing to. Check warrant number 24, $53,445.84.
So moved.
Moved by Tony, second
Second.
by Art. Okay, I think a lot of this I said was correct. I see 3,300 to Sullivan LLC. Oh, no, it wasn't correct. 7,700 to TAM. 4,500 to Tamarack Tree Care. Is that bringing down some trees in the road, Dave?
Yeah, I was doing some preparation for the work up in the hollow also. A lot of trees have to be removed away from where, by the hideaway where we're putting the culvert in.
Right,
It's a
okay.
good
Good.
time of year to do that.
All right, a couple of charges to William E. Daly, 10,000 and 8,100. And on the other side of that is the total. So I think I got it right that time. Okay, any other discussion on check warrant 24? All in favor of approval, say aye.
aye,
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Check warrant 24, $53,445.84 is approved, 500. All right. Okay. Were there any other warrants? I think what I have here then is the rest of the agenda. Okay.
Yeah, there were
Good.
only 2 warrants.
All right. Good. I don't think I could take any more. Any announcements? Okay. We will remind people that openings are coming up for positions on Select Board, Planning Commission, and DRB. If you're interested in running for the Select Board, I think you've got about 20 minutes to get your letter of intent in. Is that right, Dave? Do you know?
I'm not sure, but Marlene should be on pretty shortly.
It's due with the clerk very shortly. If you wish to serve on the Planning Commission or the DRB, let us know by email or a phone call. You can call or email me or Dave. Also, we were wanting to let people know that town meeting is going to be a little bit different this year because of the pandemic. We will not be holding in-person town meeting. We will be holding an informational meeting, a non-voting informational meeting that will take the place of that. And all ballot questions that would normally be handled at town meeting will be handled by Australian ballot. We'll have more to say about that, will we not, Dave, when Marlene shows up?
Yes, we'll go over a number of things, and it's on the agenda for later also to discuss some of the procedures for the meeting.
Okay, all right. Item 6, public comments. So we have any public comments? I don't see anyone online, so that takes us to Treasurer's Report with Melanie Dexter.
Hey, everybody.
Hi.
Melanie?
Hello.
While you're bringing up the cash flow, I'll just mention that at the last meeting, I told about the arrears program for water delinquencies. And right the next day, that money came through from the state. So 6 people were able to take advantage of that, and that was, you know, it was good to help out some people who were affected by the pandemic. So that I just want to let you know that that money did come through from the state the very next morning. So let's see. You can see that we got this quarter's highway state aid. Another large chunk of delinquent taxes came through already this month. Down at the bottom, I'll show you that we are in lockstep with delinquent tax collection for last year. Yeah, so it's practically identical. So I guess that the good news is that apparently the pandemic seems not to have affected people's ability to pay for their property taxes in Shaftsbury. I know that some towns have been very affected by it, but so far, knock on wood, it looks like we're doing okay. The other thing that I took care of in the last couple of weeks is you'll see the town appropriations are there. Yeah, almost there, 361,000. Those are the voter approved transfers to reserve. So in the last couple of weeks is you'll see the town appropriations are there. Wow, I'm hearing an echo. Can I keep going? It's gone now. So yeah, so what that means is that the cash you see there, 564,000 whatever and change, that's our real cash after all of the voter approved transfers have taken place. There's some due to, due froms that are going to affect our cash, but not hugely. So that's basically the amount of cash there is for the rest of the year. We're in pretty good shape. I'm happy to see that. It's better than last year, and looks like we're in pretty good shape. If you want to look at the reserve spreadsheet, that'll show you where all of those voter approved transfers to reserves happened. So you see that credits line is much more populated than usual. That there you go. So you just see that's the other side of what we were looking at on the cash flow. So all of those are now in there. So that means that that gives us a better idea of the money in the actual reserve funds as well. So some of those were looking negative, and that was just because those transfers hadn't happened yet. Is all of that clear? Any questions about any of that? So the bottom line is that we're just seeing, and this is only cash we're talking about, this is not budget related, but you're seeing a much more accurate depiction of what our cash situation is for all of our funds. I think that's all I've got to say. Anything else anybody want to talk about?
I think we have zeroed in on the 10th for November 10th for when taxes will be due next
That's
year?
right. Yeah, there was some back and forth about that. I did talk to the North Bennington treasurer, and she has talked with Bennington, and they had some question about, they were possibly going to move it this year. So I didn't want to move it and then find out that we moved it to accommodate them and then have us all be diverging again. So they want to stick with the 10th. The next year that the 10th will be either a Sunday, basically, is not until 2024. So I guess if we want to stick with the 10th, which it looks like North Bennington want to do, then we're safe for the next few years. I know we had a lot of back and forth on that, and I don't think there's a perfect solution, but it's probably good that we're all on the same page.
And so everybody playing along at home, take note that the 10th this year is not a Friday, it's a Tuesday or Wednesday.
I think it's a Wednesday. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Melanie.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Tim, do we want to make that a motion? Or that?
I think it will come up when we get to approving the warrant, which is going to be next Monday. So there are a number of things that will fall into place when we have a special meeting on Monday to approve the warrant.
So by approving the warrant, we'll actually approve that. Okay.
That will nail in stone the budget, the date for taxes, wording for a couple of ballot items that we're going to talk about later.
Okay.
Okay, that takes us to item 8, where we're going to discuss mail-in ballots. And we have our town clerk, Marlene Hall, joining us. Hi, Marlene. You're muted.
I was the problem earlier with the feedback, so I muted myself. Sorry. I'm
That's
sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
So, what did you want to talk to us about?
So last week, the legislature passed a bill that in part allowed every town to decide to mail out ballots to every registered voter, just like the state did in November. I have not seen this yet, but I think the only way you would really need to vote is if you really wanted to discuss it and possibly mail out ballots to everybody. But I'm going to ask you guys to take a vote just to have it on record, because everything is liquid with this election, just like it was with the November election. And I would just rather have a vote on record now than have to scramble later on. And I will tell you my feelings on mailing out ballots to everybody for this election. We don't have enough envelopes. We'd have to order probably 130% at least of our voter checklist and ballots. And we have to order ballots, 2 different ballots for schools, at least 1 ballot for the town. It would be a lot. The town would pay for postage, but we'd have to wait for them to reimburse us. It would take a long time for us to put all of this together and try to get those ballots out in time. If you mail to everybody, you're gonna have to mail to people overseas. There's a lot of negatives, I think, when we have a lot of people that really know how to get a hold of us and request their ballot when they want it.
Right. Mail-in ballots are still possible and encouraged. The question is, do we mail one to every single person as we did for the presidential election?
Right. And this election isn't usually attended nearly as well as a presidential election. So it would be buying a lot of extra ballots to get to do this.
Yeah, well, most presidential elections are not as well attended as the last one either. So.
That's very true. That's very true.
All right, let's get a motion on the table and talk about it. Is there a motion to mail ballots to every voter for town meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Tony,
I'll second it for discussion purposes.
seconded by Art. Yeah, this is moving and seconding doesn't mean that you're in favor of something. It means that you think it's worth discussing. And if Marlene wants us to discuss it, it's worth discussing. So discussion.
So what you're asking, Marlene, is that we don't take the option of mailing it out, because if we mail it out, we have to do it to everybody. Whereas if we let people request them, we only have to send it to the people that request it.
Exactly. And we are there to mail it out to anybody who requests it. And we're gonna try to get the word out early. We've got a sign ready to go for the four corners. We want people to request them, but we only want to send out to people who really want the ballots. We don't want to go through what we went through last time, where people were getting ballots they weren't expecting and they really didn't want them.
But what percentage of the checklist do you think asks for a ballot to be sent to them?
I'm gonna say we usually get a couple of hundred.
Out of 1,200?
We've had as many as 600 on a regular year. We did have 900 last March, but that was the presidential primary. So usually for this, I'm not expecting more than, say, 400 people. Although I say that, it may be a little bit more because COVID is still with us.
Okay.
But that's a big difference, that and 2,700.
Yeah, typical, I mean, I'm remembering the town meeting when I was on the ballot for, no, that was something else, never mind. Town meeting ballot, total voting on town meeting for elections, officer elections and school ballot. Turnout for that is what, typically around 900, you said?
Something like that, yeah.
And mail out is 2,700?
If you mail to everybody, yes.
2,700?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this would save us a considerable amount of money if we had just people request the mail-in ballot
Yes, money and time.
and time. Yeah, because you're running out of time. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And we
Yeah.
don't get our ballots until 30 days before
right.
a local election. So it's already tight to begin with.
So how would we advertise to the general public that they have to request a mail-in ballot?
Well, they always do. This last election was the only election so far
Right.
that everybody got a ballot. But we put a sign out. We can put it on the website. We have a lot of people in town which regularly get absentee ballots, so they know the routine. They know what to do.
Marlene, were you comfortable with this distance we were able to keep up to the garage in the last
Yes.
election? Okay, so you aren't concerned about,
No, it's going to be a little different. So we'll need 2 check-in tables this time, one for town and one for school. But I already have an idea of how I want to set it up.
Okay.
But
All
yeah, we moved people through quickly. Everybody was spread out. It worked out really well.
okay.
Marlene, do you recall what the in-person voter count was for the presidential election this year?
Around 750.
750. So that's in the neighborhood of what we're expecting for
Yes.
town meeting. But the total vote was
14. Oh, I can't, yeah, you put me on the spot. I can't remember. I think we had 1,400 absentee ballots. So it was
okay.
about 2,200.
Twice as many absentee ballots as we had in person. So the point of it I want to make is that before we were trying to get the number of in-person ballots down to a safe level, safe in terms of COVID. we believe this time with just the people who intend to vote for town meeting, we will be safe with people who request, plus people who want to vote in person.
Right. And we have to be open 7 to 7, whether we mail out to everybody or not. It's not like
Right.
it's save that day. So.
Right. Any other discussion? Okay, just to remind everybody, it sounds like consensus here is that we're going to vote against mailing ballots to everyone. The motion is, do we mail ballots to every voter in town for town meeting? So all in favor say aye. All opposed say no.
No,
No. Any abstaining? Okay, that motion is not agreed to by a vote of 0-5-0.
Thank you very much, everybody. And please, everybody know that we will send out any absentee ballot that's requested. That's not a problem. We'll be there and get the requests and get them right out to people.
Okay, Marlene, stick around just a second. There was another voter issue that we've been talking about. I've been having phone and email conversations with Donald Campbell and several town clerks and selectmen around the area about, with Pownell, for example, and Cat TV, about coordinating the informational meeting that we will have before the town meeting ballot. And the consensus there is centering around the idea that about some logistics details. Basically, those come down to Cat TV is going to handle all of that for us in terms of how we each individually and each of the school boards individually hold these informational meetings, get them all broadcast, do Zooms with 50 or 100 people, which none of us are used to. And the good news there is Cat TV has volunteered to handle the logistics there. The decision for us is when we want to do it. The legislation, as I understand it, says we can do it any of the 3 days before. So Monday, Sunday, Saturday, before the Tuesday vote. The way things have kind of fallen out, the schools have kind of staked claim for Monday evening.
Okay.
And Cat TV is not able to do two at once without a lot of effort. And we decided that the better part of valor there is just to spread them out. So it really comes down to, do we want to do ours on Sunday or Saturday?
Okay. Well, let me know and I will work around the schedule. I think the hard part's going to be getting the word out because everybody's used to a Monday evening meeting. So we'll really have to work on getting the word out for that. But we'll do it.
Okay, let me just poll the selectmen. Which do you think is better, Saturday or Sunday? And I'm thinking afternoon, but it could be evening. I would think Saturday evening would not be a good choice. Sunday evening might not be a good choice, but I'm thinking afternoon might be.
I would go with Saturday, but I don't know what time. I just don't think it's appropriate to do it on Sunday.
Well, 3 o'clock.
Joe, 3 o'clock on Saturday?
Sure.
Okay. That sounds good. I will feed that back to the discussion. And I think we will have no problems getting that. The other towns were mostly talking about Sunday. So I think we're in good shape there.
Tim, could you let me know when the school informational meeting is going to be also? I'm going to need that for the town report. Once they decide for sure.
Yes.
And also, I had trouble getting on tonight, but I was watching on Cat TV before I was able to get on, and you were asking about the deadline for anybody submitting a consent form to run. It's still it's January 25th at 5 p.m. People can
Okay.
drop it off to me. That if you drop it off on the 25th, knock on the door and hand it to me. Don't leave it in the box outside.
Okay, good, good. Okay. Dave, any other election stuff? We're going to talk about substantive item, not about election procedures later on in the agenda, so we can go ahead and leave that where it is.
Okay.
All right, very good. Thank you, Marlene.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to item 9, continuing discussion about the budget. We're very close to nailing that down completely. Dave, I think you indicated you had a couple of adjustments you needed to make at the last minute.
Yeah, we did have a couple of things to add in and subtract here. We had to up the insurance a little bit because we've had a child born into the crew. So our insurance rates are going up a little bit. And our revenues have taken a bit of a hit also. Last year's budget had $30,000 for equipment sale, which worked out very well. However, we really don't have anything left to sell. So that 30,000 has to be made up. I did adjust some revenue lines to make up approximately 12,000 of that, but that's still going to leave us 18,000 short on revenue from last year, projected revenue from last year. So that's going to have to be adjusted in the tax rate. It's not a huge amount, but the numbers have changed. Overall, the proposed budget for next year will be $2,262,140. That's a 1% increase from last year's budget. And the effective tax rate, basically the easiest way to do this is just to say for a $250,000 house, the taxes for fiscal 22 will be $35 higher than they were this year. It goes from 0.4449 to 0.4592 before we adjust for the local agreements. But from what was on the webpage for the link to the meetings for the last few days, was really the only changes were adjusting the revenue line down some, about 18,000, and the expense line up approximately $4,800 for insurance. So that's about a $23,000 swing there. But realistically, there's no way to try and estimate any more revenue because it's just not going to be there. And we've already cut a number of things or withheld funding completely, a couple of other things for the next year. So you get into the point where you're kicking the can down the road. You have to make this stuff at some point. So this is a very modest increase in the actual budget number, and the taxes will go up a little bit more than we wanted because we have to make up for the revenue we will no longer have. But again, it's a $14.20 increase per 100,000 of valuation, which is fairly low. I have not received any questions from the public, and this has been on the webpage for pretty much since we started talking about this.
Yeah, I think budget increase of less than 2% is not very controversial.
Yeah.
Well, good job, Dave. Anything else, anybody?
Dave, have you got anything in there for adjustment of fuel if fuel goes up?
Fuel is something that I've looked at for years, and I've always been concerned about fuel going up, fuel going down. It's a fairly unpredictable market. It's been fairly stable and the prices are pretty low. So we can absorb any increase that goes one way or the other, but there's really no way to predict it.
Well, can you absorb 50% increase?
It's one of those things that will absorb what has to be absorbed because the machine has to keep moving.
No, what you said, you can take it from one hand, put it in the other.
Some hands are more important than others. if things got to move to keep things going, that's what happens.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying, if it just is an example only,
Yeah.
say it went up 50% and you had to cut, you can cut it out of gravel or something like that to make up the difference.
You know, the budget itself is a total package voted on. And if, say, fuel went up from whatever I have it in here for 50,000,
Yeah,
suddenly it's 75,000. Well, you go and you start observing all the line items, and you have to start trimming things out.
okay. I just want to make sure it's covered because
Yeah,
I think it's going to go up big.
yeah. I mean, and I think that's part of every budget preparer's nightmare is the unforeseen things like pandemics and other things where.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I understand all that. I was just,
Yeah, and we are back into bringing the fund balance back up, which is where we absorb a lot of these unexpected costs. If you remember, the voters approved a 15% balance so that we could address unexpected events, and we've gotten that back up again. By the end of this fiscal year, it'll probably be close to 10%, which is more the average in the state. Actually, that's above the average in the state, but it's enough so that we can, you always have to have the ability to absorb an unexpected loss.
right. And just so you know, you were talking when I talked to you one time about replacing that John Deere loader.
Yeah.
It was on the schedule, and I called the John Deere superintendent or the service department, and if that center swivel had to be replaced, maximum repair cost of $10,000.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that you could fix that a lot cheaper than you could replace the loader
Oh yeah, absolutely.
because it's not used that much.
No, it's not.
I mean, and he said that was on the high side probably.
Okay. And that would be one of those unexpected things if it stops swiveling.
Well, no, it wouldn't. But I mean, it just gets wobbly. That's all.
Yeah, no, I know.
And of course, if you let it go too long, then you're on the high side of that repair that he was
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah. Something we have to keep an eye on. And there's been discussion of, as you well know, repurposing a lot of the equipment or changing our combination, especially in loaders, backhoes, and
Yeah.
things like that to make it more efficient.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, any other budget discussions? All right, very good. We'll move on. Item 10 is NEMRIC assessor contract. Dave, you want to tell us about that one?
Sure. We've had a contract with NIMRIC to provide assessor services. This is a renewal and a better specification of what we expect from each other. Since just to give a little background history, the town has always had employed an outside assessor to help the listers with valuations and everything. That's become a pretty scarce commodity now, is finding someone to do this. So NIMRIC this is part of their professional services, and this contract, this agreement will cover us for the next year. The rate is pretty much similar to what we have currently, except as you can see on the continuing pages, that it has a list of check marks on who's going to do what, which will eliminate some of the problems we've had, is trying to discuss who's doing what part of it. So as Tim's bringing the checklist up there, you can follow these down where the B is for both NIMRIC and the listers. The listers are responsible for everything with L, and NIMRIC is responsible for everything with N. Now, if the board approves this, we would like the motion to include that under NIMRIC assessors will handle any, that the BCA hearings and the appeals be changed from the L to a B, where both would be responsible for those, so that the listers can always count on having the professional assessor there to back up their data. And that would be absolutely common at state hearing and of course, court appeals that our professional listers would be there, professional assessors would be there. But this is an improvement over the prior contract in that we do have these things lined out now. Before, the contract was a lot less specific, and sometimes they thought maybe we were supposed to be doing something. Now we have it lined out on who's responsible for what.
So just going through this checklist out loud. This first part is in office, mostly administrative staff. And it's there's a division of labor there between Lister and Nimrick, and who is doing both. And then when we get down here to the second part, this is mostly about valuations. And Nimrick is, do I understand correctly, is doing the bulk of the work on valuations now.
That's correct. Anything that's assessed, when we go out to look at new properties, it's the Nimrick assessor who does that for us, usually after April, in preparation for the new tax bills. So any new construction, except for this last year because of COVID restrictions, it would be the Nimrick assessor coming around to inspect the property to come up with a valuation. It gives a much stronger valuation to it because this is all they do.
So under valuations, they do the valuations. They do valuations for current use. They do valuations for restricted housing and for qualified housing. And then the ones that you want us to change from what's here is to put a B for hearings and appeals so that the listers have the Nimrick guy with them if they want, backing them up in hearings and appeals, since the lister will have done the valuation. I mean, sorry, the Nimrick guy will have done the valuation. The lister will know about it, but if it's in a hearing situation where we might be strongly challenged, then the Nimrick guy can be there to back us up.
Correct. Yep.
In some towns, they have done away with the listers. I wonder how this contract would look if we didn't have listers.
Well, this is pretty much where we would be. A few years ago, we discussed that when the listers had indicated they were thinking of retiring. We withdrew the plan when they decided they weren't retiring. But we have had a professional assessor for long before I've been here for 7 years. And this Nimrick is just another professional assessor we've hired. That's essentially what they're doing. If we went to appointed listers or hired listers, we would still hire someone to be the operations person in the office. They would be backed up by pretty much this exact list, because a lot of this list that comes under L is data entry information. And a company like Nimrick wants a local person, whether it's a hired lister or an elected lister, to be the face for the town. They don't want to be the public point of contact.
Yeah, that was my point, was that we've talked about doing away with listers, but in reality, we can't. If they aren't voted in by the people, then we've got to appoint somebody. Is that right?
That's correct. We'd have to hire someone, and because we need someone in town hall to do all this and to take in questions and to assist people with things.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I thought. Well, I make a motion that we accept this contract, but change for hearings and appeals that both that a B be placed in front of that. How many is there? Is it
Two.
Two places where B be put in place of where it just says listers now.
Dave, are you okay with us doing that as one motion?
Yes, that should be fine.
Okay, so Art has moved that we accept the Lister contract with the change that both Lister and Nemrick will assist with hearings, and both Lister and Nemrick will assist with appeals. Is there a second?
Okay.
Second by Ken. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, so the Lister contract with amendment is accepted by a vote of 500.
How many signatures do you need, Dave?
One signature from Tim on both sides should do.
Okay,
Two separate places, Tim.
All right. All right. Item 11, reinstate pay-as-you-throw stickers.
Yeah, I'm gonna modify this a little bit, because maybe I was in the throes of looking for money last week, but maybe we should just hold on and raise this money on July 1st. I must say, kudos to all our residents, because our revenue, although it's significantly behind, if you remember this year, we were supposed to double the price. So we're significantly behind in the budget line. But if you look at it from the year before, half the year is done, and we've collected more money this year than we would have in any previous year at this time. So even though we're not selling stickers, people are covering, the expense under the current rate structure. So I'll withdraw my idea of moving up, going to the $2 until July. And we'll just drop that there. But I will inform the board of another issue. As you know, we're going to be coming up for negotiation with Casella. I received a letter the other day that, please note, as of February 1st, 2021, the Casella Waste Shaftsbury scale will be closing. So no longer can you bring anything to the Casella facility. And this is also in the long run going to make our expenses go up considerably, because we will have to truck somewhere else too, no longer across the street. So we're going to have an interesting negotiation session with Casella as we go into a new contract. They filed a new operating certificate. It's with the state to change the operation there. I'm on the state list as an interested party to get the information, but it's not out yet. So we're keeping an eye on what's going on over there. But I think it's definitely going to lead to some necessity for us to make some alterations in our operation. And we'll have more on that as we go along. But something the board needs to start thinking about is how we want to approach negotiations with Casella. There's nobody else to go to. Because anybody else we go to would mean trucking things further. And there's no way that they're moving everything out of Shaftsbury if it has to go to Sunderland, which is a huge facility, or Bennington's without it costing more. So there'll be a lot of things on the table as we go forward.
I guess I don't, when they say this, they're no longer going to use the scales, is it just the scales that aren't going to be used, or you think they're actually going to pull out the operation there?
That's why I'm wondering what they filed with the state. Like I said, I'm on the interested party list, but so far a document hasn't been put out by the state. Certainly closing the scales would mean it makes no sense to me to take something up to Sunderland or down to Bennington to weigh it and then drive it back and dump it on the floor in Shaftsbury. So I would drive it to Sunderland and weigh it there and dump it on the floor there. So I don't know what's going to go on there. It's a brief, interesting letter.
I think daily scales are available at a cost. I mean, I think they charge you something to run across their scales. So
$5, I think, Art.
yeah, so daily scales are an option, but I don't know if it's then got to go to Sunderland or Bennington,
Yeah,
That's
but
what I asked.
if I weighed my stuff, if I was Casella and you bought me a weigh ticket from someplace else, I'd say, well, you know, you could have put 1,000 pounds on it between there and here. You get on my scale here and you pay what's right in front of me. And besides the fact, even if you weigh it there, they're still going to charge you. They have to know exactly how much to charge you for the disposal. And if you go to like Sunderland, I don't know how it works in Bennington, but you pull up in your car, it doesn't matter if you have a feather in the back or what, it's $15 to start. And then the weight goes up after that. So it brings into question a whole bunch of things. We take C&D and all this other stuff at the transfer station. I don't know if they would continue to do that. I don't know if they should, because we're not scaling anything there. And I think they'll have some interest in that. So the board needs to think about, have to start thinking about negotiating with Casella. I'll let you know, they're supposed to be calling me in the next couple of weeks to set up something, and reps from the board would need to be part of this.
okay?
We want to follow this state permit question also, because we have a vested interest in that, and I think we could very likely want to end up testifying about changing their permit, and also make sure that they're aware that that Casella has a monopoly right now, and that should weigh into the decision making.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of questions. This raises a lot of questions on a lot of different levels, a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
How long is when is our contract in?
Our contract ends this June.
So they're breaking the contract by closing down the scales.
Oh no, that has nothing to do with our contract.
Okay,
That was one of the first things they asked me was, why are you here when we're across the street? And it's like, I don't know, because they literally pick it up and drive it across the street and weigh it. But then they were dumping it there. Now, like I said, it doesn't make sense to me to drive to Bennington, weigh something, and come up and dump it on the floor here. So it makes me wonder what's going on with the entire operation. And just from a business point of view, you're going to look for economies of scale. Now you have a giant place up here in Sunderland, and a fairly large one in Bennington, and a very small one in between. So,
but we're good until June, is that right?
we're good until June.
Okay,
And we can run our individual one forever. Look at them managing it or whatever, or us continuing, but we're definitely going to have higher trucking prices.
Well, a good guess would be that they're going to close the operation in Shaftsbury,
Yeah.
and getting permission to close the scale is the first step.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely going to change the operation.
All right. Well, we will certainly keep an eye on that one. Okay, ballot items. Item 12. We have a couple of things that we're going to be voting on, and Dave has some suggested language for them.
Yeah, these will be voted on next week when we write the whole thing into the warning. First one is for the fire department's air pack reserve. And it's pretty straightforward. I'm just going to have the language tweaked a little bit by VLCT to make sure it's right. Because on a floor ballot, if we were doing this from the floor, you would have to vote to approve a new reserve fund and then have a second vote to approve the amount to put in the reserve fund. When you do Australian ballot, you make it all one question. So I just want to make sure they like my wording. But essentially, it reads, shall the town raise and appropriate $10,000 to establish a reserve fund to be called the Fire Department Air Pack Reserve Fund, to be used for replacement of firefighter breathing apparatus in accordance with 24 VSA 2804. And these are all designed to be brief statements, but I think that It's pretty much self-explanatory. It's for its purpose and how much it will be. And then in future years, it's just another line under the group of reserve funds to be approved.
And for people who may not have seen our previous discussion, the fire department has a number of air packs that are approaching end of life. And we're going to have to start building up a fund to replace them. And that's what this is about.
And there was one more. This is a renewal, just like we did for the Grange, I think it was last year, for the Shaftsbury Community House. And it's for a tax exemption. It will be to determine, shall the town vote to exempt Shaftsbury Community House Incorporated from payment of town and school property taxes for a period of 5 years. And that they already have right now. It's expiring, so they have to ask for another 5 years.
Yep. Those both sound good to me. Any discussion on that? All right. We're good with those, Dave. Item 13, town meeting procedures. Did we already do all that?
Yeah, my biggest thing when I brought it up with you last week was where are we? Who's going to run the meeting? And I think a lot of progress is done with that. A lot of people have been talking about it, so I think that was my major concern because I knew it was well beyond my scope to run a 100-person Zoom meeting. So I'm glad that's working.
We owe a thanks to Donald Campbell on the Bennington Select Board and Cat TV for getting together and thinking of this early and getting that, we believe at this point largely worked out.
Is this run by the town moderator?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's a good point. We should let Tom Daly know what we're talking about here because I'm not sure he's in on this.
Yep.
Okay. Moving on to other business. First up, we talked about trying to rescue the stamping machine over there at Stanley Tool Bernstein Display. I've talked to the plant manager there and I've talked with the Historical Society and everybody is go for doing that. So now we just need to figure out how to lift that 2-ton machine out and I presume get it to the garage and put a tarp over it. I don't know that we have any other plan for it, but we do believe that it is a one-of-a-kind antique and should not just fall into rust and disuse. I mean, it certainly is not being used anymore, but the conditions in the old Stanley Tool building on 67, the old building next to the road, the conditions in there are going downhill fast and everything that's in there is rusting away.
Tim, I don't see anything other than the stamping machine that's worth anything getting out of there. I think there are a lot of dies and things that have to go with it, but everything else I think can stay right there and be demolished when they do the building.
Yeah. And one thing we talked about, or maybe we talked about it offline, but you know, whatever happens with that building will be up to the next owner. But a lot of us are thinking that the appropriate thing going forward there is to think about some kind of memorial to that facility as opposed to maintaining that building itself, which is probably going to be expensive. No doubt it's going to be expensive, and the new owners are not going to want to do it probably without considerable input, financial input from the town. But something like a memorial that just commemorates that building did exist there, perhaps using some of the old stones or something like that, is something we can think about when the time comes. So Dave, do you think the crew can get in there and get that thing out?
I think Mike and I will, when he gets a chance with the weather we've been having lately, go take a look at it, try and get some real data on the actual weight of this thing, what our lift capabilities are, it will fit on a lowboy we can borrow from somebody, no doubt. But then we'll need some kind of cribbing if it's going to sit in the lot there so it doesn't sink in. And it should be elevated off the ground to try and prevent more rust to the bottom of it. There are a number of things to think about, but it's not a rush job either. So hopefully we would be able to do it without having to hire like a rigging company to do it. But we have to do some investigation. We have to find out what actually is going on. I've never seen it. The weight is speculative at this point. We need to know exactly how much it weighs before we try and lift it. So, but we have, like I said, it's not a rush job, so we have time to investigate the whole thing. Wouldn't be done till spring at best at this point anyway, because we're definitely not going to drop it in the yard with mud season coming. We don't have any pads left over there, so that's unfortunate, but we'll see what we can do.
Well, I mean, can we find a corner inside the garage for it? I don't think putting it outside on a tarp is the right idea.
I think putting it inside would be very problematic. It's a big hunk of metal obstructing the flow of the garage. I would suggest against that.
Well, I'd ask you to take a look at it and I think it'll change your mind. It's not that big.
Okay, yeah, and that's quite possible too. That's why I said we really need to go look at it.
Yeah.
A stamping machine, I have visions of, some mighty machine ready to blast things into little pieces.
No.
So,
It's about the size of a dining table.
oh. Well, let's have a look at it and we'll figure out what we can do with it.
Yep.
Okay. Also under other business, we want to talk about a purchase that the fire department wants to make. Dave, you got that?
Yeah, the first one is for the deputy chiefs. They have radios in their personal vehicles. His is quite old. So we have an estimate for $1,837 to replace that. These two items are on the fire department budget. We've spoken about them before. Joe's just looking for the go-ahead to do it. The second item is a full set of bunker gear. There'll be 3 full sets, and that comes in at $8,537 for the 3 sets.
This is all under their budget. Do you want a motion?
This is all their budget, and the money's all there.
If you want a motion, I'll make it.
Yeah.
Okay, Art is making the motion to authorize the fire department to use their own budget to purchase $8,600 worth of turnout gear and $1,900 worth of, what was this other stuff, Dave?
Radio.
A car radio for the deputy fire chief.
And radio equipment. So $1,900 for radio equipment and $8,600 for turnout gear. That was moved by, seconded by, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, so that motion is agreed to 500. And then the other item that we planned ahead for under other business was, Dave, you got some feedback about our discussions on the E911 situation with camps.
Yeah, they got back to us very quickly. They liked our idea. They will assign numbers alongside the different identified trails and paths up there. They're looking for names. So I suggested to Shelley that we communicate with a lot of the camp owners. I know a lot of the firemen know the paths around there and find the most commonly referred to name for each trail or path and just assign those names to them. The board would have to vote to assign those names to the trails and paths. And then the state will put the numbers for each one. They'll assign the numbers. probably doing exactly what I suggested, just GPSing them out using the grid maps we have. So it's actually made it a lot easier for us. We'll just have to survey people to see what they want to call their pathway to their camp. And that's not going to be easy in some cases either. Because I understand as you get towards the top, some of them get pretty narrow. So if we start off at one end, and it'll just become common knowledge, or at least when it comes up, when someone's trying to respond there, we'll at least start up this one, and people who have hiked and have camped will be able to figure out which way they're going once they get up there. Just they have to hope the camp is actually located somewhere around where the GPS indicates that 847, Shaftsbury Hollow Hill is, but, because the person could actually be anywhere on the property, so.
We're probably only responsible for the camps that are on the tax rolls, aren't we? If somebody built one and didn't tell us about it, which is
Yeah,
possible, isn't that?
Yeah, it's just the piece of property, and some of them are quite large, and they say they have a camp on them. So, I know one guy who can move his camp, so it's not going to be exact, but it'll get people in the ballpark.
But the camps are on the tax rolls, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, that's my
And
point.
that's what you're doing. If it's on the tax roll, we'll give them a number.
Okay, that's,
Okay, any other business?
yeah, Dave, have we come up with a new name for, was it Furnace Brook? That sort of stuff? Are you taking care of that? Or is
We're
that-
going to take care of that also. We're going to send out letters to the people on Furnace Brook, and we're going to have to rename probably the one that runs north-south. And then we have that road that's off of East Road, but they all use East Road addresses, and we're going to have to change that too. That's the one that runs off the trail part of Trumbull Hill. And there's a few big houses back up on it, but they all use East Road addresses. And that's actually kind of an interesting thing too, the condition of that trail and where that road is, because it's quite narrow and quite a big hump there. It's a trail. We don't maintain it. I don't know, I just went over it just before the last snowfall, just checking things around. And it really is kind of startling. So I don't know if we're going to have to do something about that at some point. I don't know if people want us to either, because then they'll have to get a lot of cross traffic from East Road going over to 7A. So
full-time residents live there?
yeah,
Really?
yeah. Yeah, there's at least 6 or 7 good houses back there. And it's come up before and has been not gotten anywhere before. But the state is now, they want it done. So it's not going to be optional. We'll just move forward on our part. And if they really object, I think they're going to have to object to the state, because we have to follow the orders. And the communications we just received were pretty clear that it's time to get this done. So we'll have some people who are unhappy. There's another one off of Hidden Valley, or on Hidden Valley, that they want changed to Deer Run. And their gridding system has it that way. And there's really no way for us to fight back about it. We did get them to change their mind when they want us basically to redo all parent acres, because some houses were a few feet off the driveways. And it's like, that's a bit much. But we'll just make the changes. I think you'll hear when we start, because I think some people are not going to be happy.
Okay.
Other business. All right, reviewing action items. Marlene wants me to let her know when I find out the school, what time the school is doing their informational meeting. See, I need to sign the NIMRIC contract. Dave's going to keep an eye on the Casella permit situation, make sure we have an opportunity to to give testimony on that. I'm going to contact Tom Daly, let him know what our procedure thoughts are for town meeting informational meeting. And Dave and Mike are going to get together at some point, maybe not right away, but sooner would probably be better than later, just in case we decide we can't get it out, so we can start thinking about it. Check out that stamp machine and see if they can get it out and put it in the garage. If it can't go in the garage, we need to go to a plan B, because I think moving it outside would just be, it would deteriorate about the same rate that it would inside that building, so.
When you go, Tim, I'd like to go along too.
Sure.
Okay.
All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Moved by Ken,
Second.
second by Tony. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed to adjourning? All right, we stand adjourned.